As science and RE are often thought to be antagonistic, RE teachers can understandably be anxious to mix the two. But in this programme, we see how one teacher manages to bring together science and RE and show just what an exciting combination they can be. Ian Harris is an RE and science specialist from the Thomas Hardy School, a science college in Dorchester, who incorporates science into a series of RE lessons.
This lesson fits into the start of the GCSE course in the curriculum. It relates to a module in the AQA GCSE on issues of life.
In this Key Stage 4 mixed ability class, pupils use both religion and science to try and answer the question, when does personhood begin?
Let's just have a little start to see what we know at the moment. Okay? So, little hands up exercise. Hands up if you think yes to this question. Is a single human egg a person? Hands up, yes. Hands up, no. 23 no's and 0 yeses. Okay, next question.
I use general questions at the start. You need to get them involved and interacting. If they're working on the board together, it brings them in, it draws them in. Actually, they start kind of working towards you. And it just gave kind of a starting point and something to link back to throughout the lesson.
As a class, we're looking at the general trends, okay? So most of us think it's not science, not intelligence. It's also not independence. We're going to leave that on the board. We're going to come back to these questions at the end and see if our views have changed based on the evidence we're going to have a look at. We looked at the words last lesson just to kind of get ourselves into this and prepared for this. And we said various terms. We said what conception was.
It means when a embryo is first fertilised.
The role of vocabulary in today's lesson was to help them explain themselves. It allows them to distinguish. There are different meanings, different words. The words they use give something away of what they believe about it.
How developed can an embryo be?
It's like almost human, and it has like
Almost
a heart.
human? How big are we talking?
Quite small.
Quite small.
Like,
Are you, that big? We going for it?
yeah.
I think it's probably a bit big for an embryo. Embryos are kind of up to 8 weeks. An embryo is up to 8 weeks only. A fetus, that's what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
When it's it's bigger. Okay. So we could say that that's a blastocyst, but that's an embryo. But these are fetuses.
In the world they're in the environment they've been brought up in, students expect to have scientific answers. And if they don't, they'll feel like the whole truth isn't being explained to them.
We're going to have a quick look at some possibilities. So there's Tom's idea, conception. Okay? Egg, sperm, just...
I think some art teachers may be anxious about incorporating science into their lessons. I certainly was when I first started, but I kind of made a conscious effort to actually learn as much as I could. If I couldn't give a balanced view and answer questions, then it wouldn't help my understanding and it wouldn't help the student's understanding.
You've got a backbone and you've got kind of a tube-shaped heart. Would it be helpful if biology got a stage, a single point, right, X number of weeks, that is a person? Would that be a good thing?
For women who were thinking about having abortions, I think that would be, because it would sort of say then it's an actual living thing.
I think that abortion shouldn't be allowed because you are actually like taking the life away of an unborn child.
We went off the lesson plan a little bit. Someone managed to link it into abortion quicker than expected. If it had gone too long, I think it would have actually kind of just drifted off topic.
What then is personhood dependent on?
I think it's when it's born.
Right.
Because when it's born, it's like got more. It knows like what it's doing. And it's like more aware of things.
By the time it's like an embryo, I think it's actually like living. But before that, it's kind of not quite aware.
I disagree, because it's not. They haven't got any features. It's just they haven't even like the baby hasn't even formed. It's just two little things coming together.
What I'd like to do is have a look and try between you to decide on one picture, one stage that you think is when personhood begins.
That one.
Why is it that one?
Because it's living, it's starting off, look, it goes,
Well, how
is
is it
getting
living
me?
if it's there? The senses are coming alive after like growing and developing, and so that one's just about to become alive, isn't it?
I try and kind of follow a three-part model. So asking them first for their own ideas, then add some vocabulary, terminology or some ideas. Then you've got kind of a link with their previous knowledge, you've added some new knowledge, and you've also given them some understanding to new information.
They've got everything everywhere. They're like from inside stuff. But it's not a human. It's not.
I'd still see that's a human though, because it's still being fed and it's by its mother. Whereas here, it's not attached to its mother as such.
I think it's somewhere over here, but we can't. We've got to do a little compromise.
Let's have a quick whiz through then.
I think it's the top one because you can't have any of the other stages without the first one, and it's there and it's like living.
Well, I think it's human from the start.
I think it's in between just before birth and sometime after it is born, because just before birth it's just about to like become alive. It's a living thing, but it's not a person because it can't think, it can't talk, it doesn't really have a personality.
I think that the first one is when it becomes a human, but I think sort of in between the last two, it becomes a person. So it becomes independent again.
I think it really depends on what you class as a person. Because...
Now, what kind of question is that? Is it hard? Is that a question you'd answer in science lessons? Should we say?
Don't know.
All of this pretty much is just fact, isn't it? All the pictures and all the kind of development. It's all kind of scientific. The question, what is a person, isn't a scientific question, is it? If it's not a science question, what kind of question is it?
It's an opinion question.
It's an opinion question, yes. So it's a beliefs question, so it's a morals question.
An RE question, sort of.
Well, it's a question that religions try and answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
And belief systems try and answer.
Because it's like what you believe in.
Yeah. Let's have a look then, up on the boards, at 4 religious views now. We have a Catholic view. Human life begins when an egg is fertilised. To kill an embryo, fetus, or even at early stages is morally wrong. Personhood begins at conception.
I chose Catholic and Church of England because they'll be expected to refer to those in the exam. Judaism is quite different kind of take on when personhood begins. Hinduism I chose because we've just done it last term.
What I'd have a go at doing is read through each one in pairs, and let's try and think of 2 questions we could ask about each one.
Yeah. What, do they not let you have an abortion here?
That means that
You're not allowed to have an abortion.
personhood begins at conception, which is right at the beginning, which is what I said actually. That's giving it quite similar rights to the Catholic view.
Yeah.
They can have it from really early stages. Why does the mother have more rights than the baby? Because the baby could be just as important.
Yeah.
Because it's got like a whole life ahead of it.
I don't think that's right, but I think it's like halfway there.
I think it should be equal. I don't think just because it's been born, it should be equal.
Would they allow like an abortion if the mother was in trouble?
I agree with the first bit that when the egg is fertilised it is, but I don't agree with that it is morally wrong. I still think that the human life begins when the egg is fertilised.
I think it's in between those two. It's like there. Yeah,
that one. I do agree, sort of, but I think it's the mother's choice if she wants to get rid of it.
On most of them it says like a serious issue or that it's like morally wrong. So it's obviously they disagree really strongly and stuff.
Right.
But
and what reasons or reason could we give as to why it seems a serious issue?
because they say like it's a person, like personhood and things.
And is there something about this personhood that makes it so serious, Matthew?
Is it because they believe that they're terminating one of their like God's children? Because like in Church of England, they believe that everyone is God's child. So
interesting. Right.
They could think that it's taking something away from God, which is not theirs to take away.
Good point. So let's have a quick look at what we decided. Okay, so we're not saying answering these, we're just saying what kind of questions we would ask.
We wanted to know what the conditions were when it was the best option to have abortion and when the mother's right can override the baby's and why.
Right. If you had to guess, What do you think the answer would be to the second one?
Because she's the carrier of the baby and she's the life source. And if the baby dies, then she can still stay alive. But if she dies, then the baby can't.
The question would be, would it be acceptable to have an abortion if the mother was in danger of, like, being harmed when giving birth to the child?
Good point. There is a view that Catholics hold called double effect, whereas if the mother's life is in danger, serious danger, you can terminate the pregnancy and the side effect is the unborn baby dies.
If, like, the mother's, like, really young and she's going to have a baby, but, like, when the baby's born, she's not going to be able to take care of it very well and no one else is going to take care of it for her, then the baby's going to get treated badly anyway, so they not let her have an abortion.
Well, even though, as you say, there could be more harm than good caused, if she could give it safely, then, yeah, it was seen as wrong to abort it. In your GCSE, you will have to answer an evaluative question on this kind of area. You may have a question like this. When personhood is reached, it's a matter for science, not religion. Do you agree?
Religion type combine really well. A tendency for students to think in boxes, trying to kind of break down these boxes they've got in their minds and see that actually the ethics that we study is relevant to their study in science. There's a lot of useful dialogue both science and ethics can bring. If we can get students to think there's kind of more than black and white, yes-no answers to things, and there's lots of yes-buts, there's lots of grey areas, I think that's a good thing for making them think harder and think harder and think deeper about kind of the quite complex issues we're looking at.
Our key terms then were these four, right? Conception, blastocyst, embryo and fetus. And they're scientific terms, aren't they? Are they helpful in working out what a person is in our discussion so far?
I think it depends on which kind of person you are to which method you would use to answer the question. Because if you're, like, strongly religious, then you'd, like, wouldn't question the belief of your certain religion, but if you're, like, more scientific than religious, then you probably would go with the pictures.
What would you say you are, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know, probably a bit of both. Probably a bit of the religious side and a bit of the scientific as well.
Yeah.
The scientific, they often have lots of evidence, whereas religion is quite often like opinion.
It depends on who you are and what side you take and what view you have on it. So a scientist might choose that and a Christian person might choose something else.
Becky?
Maybe there is no answer, but people, like I say, like, have their opinions, so, like, there is an answer to them, but not
Good
other
point.
people.
Yeah.
Like, because they think other things, so...
That's a very good point. Yeah, so if the answer is good for you,
Yeah.
from a religious or scientific perspective, that is enough, if it works for you. And now to start to conclude. So we're going to ask the same questions as we did on the board and see if our answers have changed as a result of the two types of evidence we see. When an egg and sperm meet, is a human being created?
I use the decision pads, quicker feedback. It gives clear kind of images of decisions and results. It's an obvious conclusion. We've been thinking about it all lesson, and the time for thinking has stopped, and the time for kind of deciding is now. And I think that gives kind of finality to the lesson.
Looking at those results then, it looks like most of us have changed our view from the initial questions on the whiteboard that we started with. You know, we've seen some evidence, we've discussed it a lot, there's been some really intelligent points coming up. Obviously our views have changed and probably will continue to change.